I've just realised we haven't actually really sat down opposite each other and talked about our mental health. And it's World Mental Health Day.
Oh, is it? I was going to say, we talk a lot about mental health today.
But we rarely do it together, to each other's faces.
Yeah.
It's always on the hoof. It's always on the move.
But also, I think when we talk to our community, we do a bit because we come from different angles with it, don't we? Mine's more body image and yours is more depression and anxiety.
And addiction. But yeah, YouTube are doing this thing which is called Find a Way #with me. It's a campaign that they're doing. And they've asked us to sort of have a chat about how we've coped, how we've managed our own sort of mental health issues during this most bizarre of times. I mean,
crazy.
We've talked about it a little bit in our relationship podcasts, but and it's funny because when you start to think about how you cope, one of the weird things with mental health, and when I talk about mental health, I don't mean like you've got a mental health diagnosis. We all have mental health, like we all have physical health. Yeah,
it's the difference between it's drawing those lines between mental health, mental illness.
Yes.
I mean, I have never had a mental illness.
No.
But I have struggled with my mental health, like one would want physical health. And I think it's important to have that distinction because I think a lot of people have struggled through this time and not known how to identify it. So I just think, if you've got an upset stomach, it's not there all the time, but it's your physical health.
No.
And I think for me, not suffering with a mental illness, I have, it's been tough.
Yeah.
Dealing with my mental health. And I think we were incredibly lucky in that we already had this community on YouTube. So, because I think one of the things that helps me the most with my mental health and when I'm struggling is communication, is talking, exercise, good eating. And I think because we share a lot of that on here and we talk a lot to other people and we hear a lot back and forth. I mean, people often say to us, don't they, oh my God, I don't know what I'd do without you. And we all say, well, it's vice versa, actually.
It is a two-way street. I mean,
really
if I think of some of the coping mechanisms I've used in lockdown and during this coronavirus pandemic, one of them, which has been deeply useful, has been this platform for not just sharing one's own fears and worries, but being highlighted, having it highlighted what other people are going through, being reminded of the many different perspectives and experiences, whether it be something as simple as, I remember over the summer we were, doing stuff like, setting up a camera and showing the garden and how that was resonating for people who didn't have gardens.
What helped me through those initial first few weeks when I went into a total crash, I was never been so scared in all my life, and I was struggling with my mental health. And then one day we were doing a live and I was talking and we were all talking about the awful situation. And then somebody said, oh, I just feel like I wish there was something else. Because at that time, that was just all that everyone was talking about. And I suddenly said, right, okay, let's all think of a spark of joy. And then that went on for weeks and weeks, didn't it? On our platforms and people still will tell us. And it was interesting because I think the really important thing is to always recognise that people deal with things in different ways, and whatever your way is okay. So that really helped me through a dark tunnel. It gave me pinholes of light that I walked towards, and then they expanded, and I felt better. But for you, where you were at that time, it was really different, wasn't it? How you felt about the spark of joy. You didn't.
I wanted the fart of gloom. I mean, it's just also, I mean, we've covered and we've profiled a lot of the news flow through the crisis. We've done it genuinely as a kind of service to kind of get underneath the headlines, a way of taking the heat out of them because they're very depressing. I mean, the WHO's one of their top tips right at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis was to limit your exposure to news. And yet at the same time, when you're going through a crisis like this, one of the other coping mechanisms is we all go to news because we want the security blanket of knowing what's going on. Absolutely. And also just what's coming. What are they saying is coming? And I don't want to get into the rights and wrongs of various news gathering services or platforms and all that kind of stuff. But what I do think has been useful for me, has been the need or desire to be abreast of all of that, and then to be able to digest it, and then to be able to share it and discuss it with you guys, on the channel.
I mean, I think very much for me in the early days, and still when I was looking at the news all the time, I felt that it was really impacting negatively on my mental health. So I did actually check out of it and decided to just listen to it once a day. And it's amazing now through the lockdown and through everything that we now are doing that here on the channel, where we digest the news once a day. And people say they come to us once a day.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, the peaks and troughs that I've had with the news. And some days when it's really, really making me more anxious, and I've forgotten that I can check out of it. And I almost have to remind myself, and I think that's a really important thing for everyone to remember. You can check out. You can say, okay, I'm just out of here for a bit, I can't do this. But I think both of us, the physical things that we were doing paid off enormously with our anxiety, didn't we? We got into quite a routine with our exercise.
Yeah, so regular exercise.
I was binging like a crazy person on biscuits and chocolate chip cookies, and then that was just making me feel worse because I knew I wasn't doing anything that was really of any value for my health by doing that. My immune system, all of that. So once I started to take control back of those things, like, okay, get up, do a little bit of meditation, do a little bit of exercise, and we shared that a lot on our platforms, didn't we? We said, "Come on, guys, do it with us."
I mean, I must admit, I failed a lot.
Being accountable to somebody else really, really, really helps.
Yeah.
If you say, "Listen, let's do this together," because on those days when you can't lift yourself out of your gloom, that just might be the day that whoever you've decided to do, even if that's just a buddy, a social media buddy, or a relative, or your partner, or your child, or even maybe an app that you use that taps into you doing that regularity of movement, just to get yourself away from your own thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I already, I don't know if you get this, I don't know if anyone else gets this, I already feel strangely nostalgic about the early months of lockdown. So, for example, those times where we were watching box sets like Tiger Kings and what have you with the girls, we had really quite clearly I feel like we're in a much more challenging place now, where we're kind of half in, half out of it, and we're kind of almost trying to live a normal life, but can't live a normal life. And so we're all when we were absolutely in the sort of definitive lockdown era,
there were no choices.
No, but there were great moments of family time, having a sort of regular point in the evening where we watched a series like the Glow Up thing, wasn't it, on BBC Three? Shows that I wouldn't normally have sat down to watch, I've sat down and watched. And I think it is feeding into coping now, like last night, watching Bake Off, and it really stimulating me and actually really enjoying it.
Those pure escapism programs where there's just something gentle about them. Like, I think you have to be careful with what you view. If something feels really wrong to you, because a lot of the time I think we're all feeling just a bit unstable. That howling with laughter is our 17-year-old. So don't ignore it, relish in it. It's so lovely. She's not always howling with laughter. To just be mindful of what you're watching. Now, Bake Off yesterday and actually the week before was complete escapism. I just didn't think about anything that was going on in the world. And whatever that is, somebody said to me the other day, skipping. When they're skipping, I do trampoline. Well, not trampoline, you can't really call it that, but I bounce a bit on that bouncy thing. And I'm never thinking of anything negative when I'm doing that, because I just can't.
No.
Because there's something just childlike about bouncing up and down on a trampoline. There's something childlike about just absorbing yourself in baking, so how can you escape?
As well, we'd have moments where we turn, another strategy was tidying the kitchen into an opportunity for us to hear the girls' music.
Yeah.
So,
and it shook them out of there, because I think when you've got, we all know what moody teens are like anyway, but we would say, come on, you can clear up, you can put on whatever music you like. And then we all got into dancing with it, and they loved it. And it did break the sort of cycle of
there's
misery.
been a lot of talk about people sort of picking up skills and things like that. And I'm beginning to think that my desire for those things has been delayed because we've been actually very, very busy in lockdown. And it's now that I'm thinking, I want to learn the piano. I want to bake a cake. It's kind of like, why has mine come 6 months after? Why was everyone on it like a car bonnet right at the beginning? And so I think the ability to kind of learn new skills or to do those sorts of things.
Well, maybe it's because, and a lot of our community did say this to us, you know, that when lockdown first came in, it was kind of weirdly reassuring for people that suffered with anxiety because it was, you all felt in an almost safer place because it was like, oh my God, everybody feels like we do. Everybody's struggling with their mental health. And there was a real connection. And maybe now, as it's passing through, you're going into the stage that other people were.
Yeah.
And why not?
Yeah, why not? I think I'm going there. I mean, I think
these are very troubling times at the minute.
Absolutely. And we heard from a lot of people, and I really related to this idea, that actually they felt that as soon as their horizons and their world was limited, things were a bit clearer and a little bit more manageable. And a lot of people who suffer from quite profound anxiety problems found their anxiety lessened because there were less choices. And I thought that's something in terms of a coping mechanism for not just this crisis, but any crisis, is realizing that you don't actually need as many choices as you think you need. Something else that we've talked to the girls a lot about is things don't have to be done so quickly. I mean, the whole crisis, the whole drama has reminded us that time is a very elastic thing. And okay, of course, there are deadlines and things have to happen at certain times with work and what have you. But there is, by and large, what I think we've all been shown is that it's a little bit mythical, this idea that time is running out as fast as everyone likes to think it's running out. And I think if there's something we could take from this crisis, it's that actually time is far more favourable to us if we let it be. You know, we mustn't be stressed by it. We mustn't be rushed by it. And, you know, so I've heard a lot of people talking about whether they should, the fact that they've kept diaries and things like that. And I was thinking, even on our channel, we've got this strange time capsule of vlogs and sort of video diaries from all the kind of bits and clips that we've done. And then we've done all of our podcasts.
I think it's a good idea for people to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be YouTubers to do that.
No.
I think to catalogue this extraordinary time I think there might be real regret if people don't do that in some way.
Yes.
In some way.
Absolutely
because this
agree.
is totally insane what we're going through, and it's all right to say that.
I think you've been much more successful in summer. I think you've been much more successful at maintaining your meditation. I suppose in different ways though. You've maintained your meditation and mindfulness. You also had a bit of a digital detox in there. I've kept my sort of fitness regime up. But
Religiously.
Religiously.
I mean, you will say, I need to go and exercise now for my mental health. You say it as clear as that. It's like, you go off and you do it. And I think it's really hard when you're feeling really low to commit to that. So we have always said, haven't we, right through from the beginning to our community here, just start in the smallest way, even if it's a 5-minute walk. Change your air. If you can't go out, open the window just to change. You can get so locked in to the way that you're feeling that just the smallest change, the smallest movement, I find anyway, really, really helped me.
You're absolutely right. And I think one of my final lines of advice would be, for me, what works for me, and I did it today with a run, is what I called almost threshold therapy. If you can make yourself step over the threshold of one room or one situation or location into another, it usually changes your makeup somewhat.
Oh, it does.
Just, you know, and you're right. It might be that, okay, you might not have a garden, but you open your windows, you open your curtains. I often say to people, lie on the floor, on a cold laminated floor, and just push your face against the floor. No, I really do. And sometimes they'll find me in the most bizarre places, just lying on the floor. It's just about, it's to do with the senses, and it's to do with almost slightly shocking you out of just going deeper and deeper into here. And it brings you almost to the surface so that you feel it. And that's why exercise is good. And that's why I think, stepping out the front door, just doing anything different is useful.
I've always said, I wish I could draw, I wish I could paint, I wish I could draw. And just recently, I've been doing it, haven't I? As a family.
Well, with your sisters.
My sister started up a little company called Art by Box. And it's all about trying to find the artist in you, whatever that is. And based really on the idea that if we can just be mindful of what we're actually doing there and then, it takes us away from whatever we're obsessing about. And I was very, oh yeah, right, I'll do this because it's my sister's. But actually, oh my God, a couple of... And in fact, often through lockdown, we were saying to people, just get kids colouring books even.
Well, yeah, it's the mindfulness of just doing it rather than successfully
These
as well.
mindful colouring books that are out there, they're there for a reason why they're so successful.
That's very
because
true.
actually you can... You know, when you doodle, if you think about when you doodle, how you can just lose time.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of my top tips. I'll definitely be painting a lot should we ever go into lockdown again.
Yeah. And there you go. And also remember, guys, feelings aren't facts.
Yeah.